Hey guys, today I'll rank the 10 best JRPGs developed and or published by Bandai Namco in North America, including ones published by just Namco. But I will leave out the Tales series. You know I'm a big fan of those, so if I didn't, half the list will probably be full of them. And I already made a top 10 Tales games a long time ago and also a tier list. Anyway, with all that clarified, let's begin. Number 10, Hack. The game that opens the top was released in 4 volumes exclusively on the PlayStation 2. Part 4, Quarantine, is infamously known nowadays for being stupidly expensive. This is a story arc about an MMORPG called The World, where a player whose character is known as Kite gets trapped inside the game. More problems arise connected to other characters and a possible virus. Kite earns the ability to hack corrupted data as manifested as anomalies in the enemies. All 4 volumes are action RPGs where you can control Kite in a somewhat dated combat with barely any combos. Fighting also includes pausing combat to select items or especially magic spells. They can get pretty intense sometimes, but also repetitive. I have to point out too the dungeon exploration, obviously inspired by real MMORPGs. You get sent to a lot of wide open areas, each with a ruin or dungeon to complete. Back then, this game was very revolutionary, but it's currently in need of a modern remake or remaster. I hope Bandai Namco can bring it back one day. Number 9, Digimon Survive. The latest black sheep in the Digimon family. I'm not a fan of the series and this is the only one I like, because it's a grid-based strategy RPG with simple mechanics and because its visual novel elements are very interactive with tons of decision making and investigations. Also, the story is quite dark, about a group of students who get lost in another dimension as they slowly start going crazy. Combat lets you control the Digimon each character bonded with, and some extra monsters you can recruit a la Shin Megami Tensei. Yep, enter in negotiations with them. I'm surprised this is a Digimon game when it definitely should have been called something different. Die-hard fans of Digimon games will probably be disappointed with this one, it's just too different from any others. Non-fans like me, who also like tactical games, will probably enjoy it. Great game for beginners too, actually. Number 8, the Eater Trilogy. I'll be including whole series published by Bandai Namco like this one throughout the video, except for Tales like I said at the beginning. But of course I'll pick the one I think is the best out of every series. Legendia is my favorite Tales game in case you're wondering. God Eater started on the PSP as God's Eater Burst to a moderate success, especially in Japan. There wasn't much interest overseas until its remake occurred digitally on PS4 and PS Vita. A much better version than the original, to be honest. They're all basically action RPGs inspired by Monster Hunter, but with a big focus on the narrative. You get sent to abandoned or ruined areas with aliens known as the Aragami you need to fight. They destroyed most of humanity long ago, so these are post-apocalyptic settings. They're all connected, so it's necessary to start with the first game, even if it's digital only. However, the third one's connections are more vague and treated openly, so it's also okay to start with it. After all, that's the one I think of as the best in the series. Combat and graphics were greatly improved, now developed by Marvelous First Studio. Still, the formula is quite the same, where you can take care of small fry first and then focus on the big elite monsters out there. I'm no fan of Monster Hunter, but I really like this series, especially this third entry and allegedly the final entry. Number 7, Scarlet Nexus. I think this sci-fi action RPG came out of the blue. Developed by Toussaint and Namco themselves, it's a bit of a post-apocalyptic setting where creatures have invaded several parts of the planet eating human brains. So you belong to a group of special ops that fight them with telekinetic powers. You choose between 2 main characters, each with their own side of the story, and party members, Yuito and Kasane. You can only play as them, but your party members can aid you in battle by combining their psychokinetic powers with yours or by simply using theirs. Combat is tricky here and it'll definitely take you a while to fully understand and succeed, but one of the highlights is that you can grab objects with these powers and throw them at your enemies in different ways. You actually have to do that for the bosses to hit their weak points and defeat them. This is a really good game. It definitely has the potential to become a series of its own. Number 6. Code Vein. Another action RPG I'm a big fan of is Code Vein. It's influenced by the Soulsborne series but only in combat. The modern Namco sure loves its post-apocalyptic plots, so this is yet another one of those. Vampire-like creatures infested the planet and destroyed it, morphing into monsters, but some that didn't morph and still have mind control are called the Revenants. A small group of them fights the monsters, basically known as the Lost. You will go into long missions to different areas infested by these creatures. Apart from being able to use a bunch of different weapons, but only one at a time, you can focus your fighting and skill tree based on different active and passive abilities. You also need blood to do this and to survive, so that's basically one of the goals of the game, to get it. In combat, however, you can use a special skill to attack your enemies doing just that. It's slow and strategic like in the Souls games, so it's obviously tough as nails. But unlike in those games, you have a different party member each time that acts as a companion. I will be a fan of Souls if they focused a lot on their narrative like this one and with a gothic setting no less, but they just don't. Number 5. The Project Cross Zone games. So here are two games that have left a lot of fans in a desperate need for a third one, including me. They're massive crossovers that include several characters from different companies like Sega, Capcom, and even Namco itself. Most characters we know them from different games and genres, others are exclusive to Japan. That was one of the reasons why the first game in the series, Namco Cross Capcom on the PS2, was never localized. They're strategy RPGs about original protagonists trying to fight off the Shinra organization, as well as helping characters from other universes to get back to their worlds. However, these aren't simple grade-based tactical games. Characters fight in pairs against a stationary enemy, pressing different buttons to create combos. Each pair can also summon an extra ally to execute a few attacks in order to create even more combos with the other two. Despite being very long and somewhat repetitive, these games are incredibly addicting. My pick for this video is the first one for one simple reason: you have more combos per pair of characters. Sure, that makes battles longer, but since I really like the combat in this game, I prefer it that way. Thank you very much. Number 4. The Baten Kaitos games. In just a couple of days, these two will be released as a remaster exclusively on the Switch, or maybe by the time you watch this video they'll be available already. Previously they were only on the GameCube and nowadays are hard to find, kind of expensive. Anyway, first there was Eternal Wings and the Lost Ocean, my pick for this video. Origins is a prequel, but the original version was so unbalanced with nasty spikes in there. I hope they were fixed in this remaster. Wings follows Kalas and Shelha joining together for different reasons to fight an oppressive emperor. Story was written by legendary Masato Kato, so you can expect a heck of a plot here. Great narrative and character development. Gameplay is very traditional, but the combat revolves around cards. Played in turns, but with a timer, you have to select a bunch of cards that are randomly available per character's turn. Some are attack cards, others defensive, all in the form of weapons or armor. Others are elemental magic spells, offensive, buffs, debuffs, healing, etc. Sounds random, and it is, but trust me, it's exactly what makes the battle so addictive. The interface in Origins is a bit different and more stressful because you gotta choose faster the cards you'll use. Still, both games are clever and original, so yeah, I hope the remasters did the graphics right, cause gameplay wise, they're both must-play JRPGs. Oh, and story too. Number 3. Eternal Sonata. If there's one underrated masterpiece out there that needs more love, it's this gem. First seen on the Xbox 360, later a definitive version was there on PS3. The latter had 2 more playable characters, but it was also more challenging. This is a game where you play as a group of characters in a magical fantasy world, beautiful world by the way, with music composer Frédéric Chopin as the main lead. Yeah, at the end of each chapter you actually get a realistic narration of his real life and his compositions, but gameplay-wise, this is a very traditional RPG. However, its combat has quite the unique twist, mixing turn-based with action. 3 characters have their turn, where you can move them manually towards any enemy on screen. Once in position, you can use the action buttons to either create combos or execute a special attack. An elemental one that varies between light and darkness if there's a shadow around the enemy or not. Yep, sounds complex, but in reality it's quite easy to understand and extremely addictive. Without a doubt, this excellent RPG needed to be on the first places here. Number 2, the Xeno Saga Trilogy. Xeno Saga is one story with the same characters cut into 3 volumes. In gameplay mechanics they're also quite similar though, but the battle systems are slightly different on all 3, despite being turn-based. Episode 1 is the game everyone knows and loves. Episode 2 got a lot of backlash for being quite unbalanced, with a combat that was hard to understand. 3 did everything right and surpassed them both, so that's my pick for this video. It's a masterpiece, a perfect closure for such a fantastic story, dark, intellectual, carefully crafted sci-fi at its best. Keep in mind, this trilogy is way too story focused, so there's a lot of dialogue, but thankfully it's mostly told through fully voiced cutscenes, like watching a movie, man. The graphics looked fantastic for their time and have aged really good. Fans demand a remaster of this trilogy, but mostly out of availability, since the 3rd entry is yet another exclusive that's rare and expensive nowadays. I doubt this trilogy will ever get remastered, but it's Bandai Namco. You just never know with these guys. Baten Kaitos 1 and 2 make sense financially, but not Xeno Saga? Weird. And number 1, HACKG. As you can see, there are 9 games and series between the original Hack games and the Geo Trilogy in this top 10. That's how much I love this one. It's a direct sequel to those 4, but with mostly different characters and an updated version of the fake MMORPG. Before you get confused, in case you don't know these games, they aren't MMORPGs. They're regular action RPGs offline, it's just their stories take place inside a fictitious MMORPG. This game, cut into 3 volumes and a little extra one available on its PS4 and Switch remaster, is the same, with vastly improved gameplay mechanics, controls, visuals, narrative, and especially the combat. Once again, you control only the main character with 2 allies by your side, and you can do a lot of combos and pick between 3 different weapons and change to any of them at any time. Story-wise, now the virus has evolved and threatens players in real life, infecting them and sending them into a coma. The player controlling Haseo will eventually join a guild that dedicates itself to investigate these issues from the shadows. While the story has its cliches and all, it's still developed with masterful writing, and combat is light years away from the first 4 games. I mean, just look at it. This is a strongly recommended game, and its remaster is a great version to play. You guys know I'm no Souls fan or Sword Art Online fan, so obviously I didn't include any of those games here. Same with One Piece, with the exception of Odyssey that I liked. No fan of Ni no Kuni either, sorry. Ni no Kuni 2 though was pretty good. That's my honorable mention. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!